Good afternoon. The very definition of a sprint we pretty much felt today. It's the shortest circuit on the calendar with 10 corners, 3 DRS zones and some dry sunny weather, but there is going to be rain forecast for tomorrow in what could be Nico Hulkenberg's final weekend. We'll have more for that later. He starts 17th. 10 corners, 12 laps, the very definition of a sprint. Here we go, it's lights out, and away we go, and George Russell and Carlos Sainz are immediately side by side, and Sainz immediately makes good on the Ferrari performance advantage that it has over the Mercedes and takes the lead. But I think George Russell was on the outside and he didn't get past Sainz there. The exit that Sainz had immediately put him in prime position. There's an Alfa Romeo with a dive bomb down the inside. We cut away, and I'm pretty sure that there was contact. There was a piece of debris there on the track. I'm not sure who that was from. Oh, and there's a McLaren. It's Ricciardo who's lost his front wing, and I believe there's a Haas in the pits as well. I could be wrong, and there it is. It's Mick Schumacher who's also lost his front wing, and we've got Alex Albon coming into the pits, and we were just saying how good a race Albon's having. That's all gone to pot now. Nico Hulkenberg is in the pits too. Hulkenberg is in the pits as he's damaged his front. What is going on? The front wing curses back, and the latest victim, Nico Hulkenberg, of all people. It just had to be him. There's Max Verstappen going down the inside. Is he going to take both of them? Yes, he is. Did he make it stick? And Verstappen has done a sensational move, and it's P2. Alternate opportunist Max Verstappen into P2. Absolutely phenomenal move down the inside of both Hamilton and Sainz, but he won't catch Russell. It's a fantastic move, and always a nudge, but I think that's clean enough. George Russell wins the sprint race. So after a crazy sprint race, it's time for the main event, the Austrian Grand Prix, and as you'd expect, the Max Legion are out in force to cheer their man to another win at the Red Bull Ring. And confidence will be high amongst them after a stunning last lap move yesterday that put him P2 on the grid alongside George Russell, who started from his first ever pole position. Meanwhile, his main championship rival Charles Leclerc could only manage P7 from a P10 start on the sprint grid, and now we have the added element of a wet start with the possibility of it clearing up late in the race. Away from the track though, drivers' moves are impending, as Aaron will explain. Yep, as expected, Raven West have made the call, and Nico Hulkenberg will be driving in his final Grand Prix for Audi this afternoon, as he will be replacing Lara Carvalho for the rest of the Grid World Series season. Audi confirmed that this was the only reason and not based on results, considering before the points finish at Silverstone, Nico hadn't scored since the Bahrain Grand Prix. They've also confirmed that his replacement is a short term and won't be a buyout from another team either, after rumours first surfaced of a possible swoop for Mick Schumacher from the Haas team. As for who it is though, Audi only said this: wait and see. Yes, all Audi said, wait and see, but it's big plans. I can tell you that, but we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer to see what those plans are. Thanks, Aaron, we can't wait. The Austrian Grand Prix then, it has a very intriguing history. The first race here at the now Red Bull Ring was held all the way back in 1970, won by Jackie Ickx, and ran until 1987. A decade later, we returned to the current circuit, renamed the A1 Ring at the time, in a race won by 1997 champion Jacques Villeneuve, with the last race of that particular stint being in 2003 and won by the great Michael Schumacher after his car caught a small fire during a pit stop. It was renamed the Red Bull Ring in 2011 and returned to the calendar once again in 2014, and has been a mainstay ever since, in particular with 6 races in 3 years at the end of this weekend. And of course, since 2019, the first corner bared the name of the late great Niki Lauda. It's the shortest lap on the calendar at just over 65 seconds, as demonstrated by Red Bull's Sergio Perez. On board the Red Bull racing car of Sergio Perez, the home Grand Prix for the Red Bull racing team, heading up to turn 1 with which bears the name, of course, of the late great Niki Lauda. We've gone past the start-finish straight now. We're on the first straight afterwards, which will be the first of 3 DRS zones, which will not be used through this race, as it is a wet start, but it was obviously used in this qualifying session. Onto turn 2 and then heading up to turn 3. There's the second DRS zone, which is another really long straight. It may be a short circuit, but there's plenty of long straights and full frontal to be had, especially in the first part of the circuit. Now we get into a more twisty section as we are in the second sector. As you can see, Max Verstappen is setting the fastest lap, but this was before George's run at the end of the session. And down to a long sweeping left, almost flat, but Perez has to actually lift up a little bit because there is a little bit of tightness in that corner. We've got a Mercedes, I think, there in the way. Perez would normally sweep through these corners, but of course he was kind of unintentionally blocked by Hamilton. And that's it, just 65 seconds for the lap of the Austrian Grand Prix. Obviously quicker in qualifying as well. It could be almost a minute, but not quite. Hard to believe we are pretty much at the halfway point of the 2022 season, but there's still another 2 races to go before a well-earned summer break. Welcome to round 11. The Austrian Grand Prix has always been known to produce classics, but today here we have another added element, the rain. Everyone will be starting on the intermediate tyres, and DRS will of course be disabled. Expect the unexpected. Commentary from the Austrian Grand Prix, round 11 of the season. Of course, Mary Hamwood. Thank you, Chaos. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been wet, but it's not wet enough for the full wets. We also had the added element of a standard procedure start for these 2.6 miles Austrian Grand Prix. 10 corners and 3 DRS zones, none of which will be used because we are starting on the intermediate tyres in the wet. And that could, as Chaos said, expect the unexpected. We have a mixed up grid. Let's take you through it. Both McLarens will start on the back row with Lando Norris behind Daniel Ricciardo. Both cars took engine penalties, but they finished towards the back of the sprint anyway, so that makes sense. Lando Norris was the only retirement in the sprint yesterday, of course. In his final Grand Prix for Audi, Nico Hulkenberg will go from 20th behind Alex Albon. Mick Schumacher starts 18th behind Nicholas Latifi. Again, statistically better cars, but Latifi, great effort there. Of course, Schumacher broke his front wing. Both Aston Martins and both Alfa Romeos line up together on the grid, and then the Noah's Ark effect is broken by Tsunoda and Kevin Magnussen in P11. Behind Pierre Gasly as we go into the top 10, Fernando Alonso will start 9th. Esteban Ocon is 8th, behind championship contender Charles Leclerc in 7th. With it all to do, Perez 6th, followed by Aiden Jackson. Lewis Hamilton's 4th behind Carlos Sainz, because Max Verstappen pulled a sensational manoeuvre at the end of the sprint to go from 2nd. But starting from his first pole position is George Russell in the Mercedes. There's the message, DRS disabled for the start of his race, and it is standard procedure start with everyone starting on the intermediate tyres. Of course, if it was wetter than this and we had a safety car start, it will be a start on the wet tyres, and everyone will be required to do that because we've had some, there's also been some drivers trying to pull fast ones by fitting on the intermediate tyres under a safety car. And I think it was it Felipe Massa or Kimi Raikkonen, I think back in the Japanese Grand Prix, that was told by Charlie Whiting, God rest his soul, Charlie Whiting at the time, told Ferrari to put that car back on the wet tyres. If you want the safety of the safety car, that means the track was too wet for the intermediates and you will put on the wet tyres, and he usually did so. Today for the Austrian Grand Prix, it's wet, but it's not as wet. We're going to have standard procedure with everyone on the intermediate tyres. But that means, of course, DRS is disabled. So, Max Verstappen has a good opportunity here to increase his championship lead further over Charles Leclerc. As we said, he has it all to do from 7th. Of course, the Ferrari has the performance advantage over the majority of the front of the field this season, but the rain is the great equaliser, and George Russell will be having to take advantage of that. Mercedes have broken their barren streak now. They are winners again, even if it is in a sprint race. And of course, today is the final race, at least for now, definitely for Audi for now, for Nico Hulkenberg. He starts 20th before, at the end of his race, he will depart us and replace Lara Carvalho for the Raven West for the rest of the Good World Series. We wish her the best of luck in her recovery, and Nico Hulkenberg for his future. A future that is unknown for Audi. They're leaving us in suspense over who that second driver will be and what the situation will be for it. But those are stories for a later day. Here come the 5 red lights for the Austrian Grand Prix then. It's George Russell from pole position alongside Verstappen. And it's lights out and away we go. They were on for a very long time. Max Verstappen has got a pretty even start between the front two, I think. And Max Verstappen, does he go look down the inside of the Niki Lauda curve? He does, but he thinks better of it with his championship rival down in 7th and now 8th. He's been passed by Alonso. Verstappen thinks better of it and stays in 2nd. So George Russell leads from Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. It's the same 3. Hamilton, Jackson, Perez. Alonso's ahead of Leclerc. And Ocon is ahead of Gasly. That's your top 10. And I think Leclerc has actually beaten back Alonso back into 7th. Aiden Jackson's actually got ahead of Hamilton now. We didn't see it, but the big mover, Aiden Jackson, up to 4th, ahead of Lewis Hamilton, as those two lock into combat together. I think Verstappen went slightly wide. I think he was kind of fishtailing out of the corner, but fortunately he was able to save it and stay in 2nd place. We know how good Max Verstappen is in these conditions. Brazil immediately comes to mind. Brazil 2016. Hamilton with many sensational drives in the rain as well. Silverstone 2008. And Aiden Jackson at Silverstone just last time out for the main Grand Prix. And of course the Silverstone feature race where it was wet in 2020 in Formula 2. He won that race after falling to the back of the grid after a spin. And he had a sensational drive through the field and won that race. And as we come to the end of lap 1, George Russell will still lead from Verstappen. We've got a battle at the back between Hulkenberg and Latifi. Latifi's actually managed to stay ahead. There's Lando Norris as he'll look into the Niki Lauda curve, turn 1, to pass Hulkenberg. Did he make it stick? I don't think he did. I think he went into the corner a bit too deep and will lose out because he won't have the momentum but Hulkenberg had. Hamilton and Jackson are locked in combat again. These two have had their battles this season. I think it's been the most watched battle of the year so far. And as we know for the British Grand Prix, as we said, Lewis Hamilton full of praise for Aiden Jackson. And he really has enjoyed racing him this season because he knows what to expect. A lot of people will probably take that as a dig at Max Verstappen. Hamilton denied those claims. Lando Norris is now ahead of Hulkenberg. And those two are kind of swapping positions at every corner on the track at the moment. It's just a shame that Nico Hulkenberg is once again confined to the back. Of course, Hulkenberg broke his front wing in the sprint race, as did Daniel Ricciardo and Mick Schumacher. They were towards the back, and that's why the McLarens took engine penalties anyway. And here's the replay of the start from Russell, pretty even with Verstappen. I think Russell got the better of the second phase, and that's what kept him ahead of Verstappen in the first corner. The fact Verstappen thinking about the championship lead, he knows that Charles Leclerc is down in 7th, but not really making any inroads on the rest of the moment. He's still in 7th now. Obviously no need to rush it for Verstappen. He probably has a performance advantage over the Mercedes in overall race package, but George Russell is holding on to that lead. He's now grown it up to about half a second now, and as we said, the rain is always the great equaliser, and George Russell is certainly proving that to be a true fact at the moment. Still ahead of Max Verstappen by 7/10 now. Carlos Sainz has broken DRS range on Aiden Jackson behind. Of course, there's no DRS anyway because it's been disabled due to the wet conditions. Jackson has gone out to a second ahead of Hamilton according to the timing tower. So those two have pretty much broken any threat from behind. Perez 6th ahead of Leclerc, and Max Verstappen, we hope he stays that way because of course he is the championship leader, so any points Perez can take off Leclerc would be very much appreciated. Which Max Verstappen sliding out of the Niki Lauda curve there. He was, again, very lucky to save it. It looks like he's struggling with the handling of his car a little bit in the early stage of his race. The intermediate tyres are very different to the dry tyres. You want to keep the intermediate tyres as cool as possible because if they're not, they will burn out very quickly. But there's no danger of that at the moment. We are expecting the rain to clear towards the end of this race, so we could get some dry weather running and some usage of DRS. later in the race. Right now, everyone is just looking to get through this rain period for as lack of incidents as possible. We had a crazy sprint race yesterday, didn't we? Front wings going everywhere, and fortunately we've not had that for anybody this year, so we've all got through rather safely as the first 4 laps to attest to then. George Russell has grown to 7 tenths over Max Verstappen, and Russell is looking very comfortable. Of course, he knows how to lead a race. He led the majority of the Chequered Grand Prix back in 2020 before problem after problem pretty much took an almost certain win away. And the sprint race certainly made up for that in the most part, but it's not a Grand Prix win, but it is a win nonetheless, and Mercedes will take any positives they can get, because they have certainly not looked at it this season compared to previous years anyway, but they've certainly made some strides since the Spanish Grand Prix when they brought their first updates in, and that could be the case for Audi as well. It's just unfortunate that Nico Hulkenberg really hasn't had a chance to use them to its full potential at the moment, because he's always been confined to the back with engine penalties in the mid part of this season. But today he's battling with Lando Norris in a McLaren. They go side by side into turn 2, and Norris was trying to look at the TV as well. Did Norris come out of that? No, he did not. That is rather unfortunate, because Norris was looking down the inside of the TV. The TV is doing well. Credit the TV, up in 18th place. Schumacher's up to 16th, so he's made 2 places at the start. Got ahead of his good friend Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin. Lance Stroll is 15th. The 2 Alfa Romeos are then following ahead of him. Yuki Tsunoda and Kevin Magnussen is 11th down to 22nd. The top 10 remains as has been for a few laps now, with George Russell leading by about half a second, I believe, ahead of Max Verstappen. He's pretty much pegged Verstappen so far. George Russell doing very well at the front at the moment. There's the man, the championship contender, Charles Leclerc. He's certainly not had the best of luck since Bahrain. I think he won later in the year, of course, but he's certainly had a pretty difficult weekend around here, and a pretty difficult couple of weekends as well. Didn't really take real advantage of the fact that Verstappen was out of the race with, I think it was a gearbox problem that hampered Verstappen in the end. It was nothing to do with the slight contact he had with Carlos Sainz during his move. And now, Max Verstappen, as we said, thinking about the championship, knows that Charles Leclerc is further down and cannot make any inroads on Sergio Perez. And it's pretty an even field spread at the moment as we look just to get through these wet conditions. As we said, we're hoping it dries a little later on. And we're at lap 6, and George Russell has certainly got Max Verstappen at least pegged, and we'll just have to wait and see later. We shouldn't have to make any pit stops for another set of intermediate tyres, even though I think that was obviously I think it was a different set of circumstances in Silverstone, because we had a safety car. Oh my word, there's a load of debris just flying around the track. What happened? I think it was a collision. I'm not sure who it was. Charles Leclerc there is pulling off, and there's Lewis Hamilton. How was there contact between Leclerc and Hamilton then? And here comes a replay then, and no appearance of the safety car as of yet. What happened here? So Hamilton is slow out of the penultimate corner, and Charles Leclerc, and that looks like a driving error to me. I think there was plenty of space on the right. I'm not sure. Obviously Leclerc was focusing on Perez in front of him, and made a mistake and hit a slow Lewis Hamilton. Now, why was he slow? I think he lost power, or lost drive at least, Lewis Hamilton, but and then he got hit by Leclerc and was out of the race completely. So Charles Leclerc then is out of this race. He's pulled off to the side on the start-finish straight, so that's green light now for Max Verstappen. All he needs to do is finish this race, and he increases his lead tenfold over Leclerc as Zhou Guanyu spins in a very similar fashion to Yuki Tsunoda in the 2020 feature race in Austria Formula 2. Tsunoda spun across the first corner, across the pit lane. Fortunately, he didn't collect anyone, and the race continued on. And I think we had a safety car at that point as well. There's Kevin Magnussen slowing down as well, and that is a Haas coming to a stop, and that could be Kevin Magnussen out of this race, and Daniel Ricciardo, and one of the McLarens has hit him. I think it was Ricciardo. It was. He's gone, and that's a front tire completely off. Thankfully, I think George Russell, Hamilton and Charles Leclerc are okay, and that's a lot of damage for Daniel Ricciardo as well. The safety car has been deployed. Right decision, because there's debris and cars everywhere, and the race director has felt the need to neutralise this race. Well, they're all dropping out of the race at the moment, and it looks like a very similar situation to what happened to the... Oh, that's a heavy impact from Ricciardo. We hear he's okay, he's out of the car, but oh my word, a similar situation. Probably another driving error. You don't really see that from Ricciardo very often, but again, he was probably so focused on the car in front, but he misjudged and hit the ailing Haas of Kevin Magnussen. So Hamilton, Leclerc, Ricciardo and Magnussen are now out of this race. Zhou Guanyu is coming into the pits because he has front wing damage. We're under the safety car. What happened there? Blimey. And Zhou Guanyu has definitely had a hit somewhere. It was funny really because he spun at the back, so he would be at the back of the field at that point. So what happened there? Did he go off maybe? Zhou Guanyu, that's a strange incident. He'll catch back up to the back of the pack because obviously the race is neutralised by the safety car. He's all on his own here. And there's the safety car. And he should be called on by. He is. There's the green light. He doesn't hit it, does he? And he does. He hits the safety car and loses his front wing. And race control, black and white flag for car 24. I can't believe I'm reading this. That's Zhou Guanyu for a collision with the safety car. What is going on? We have got kind of mistakes galore from everyone today. We had Charles Leclerc pretty much hitting Lewis Hamilton. And then we had Ricciardo slamming into Kevin Magnussen. Now we got Zhou Guanyu hitting the safety car and losing his front wing. That is incredible. It's almost like drivers don't know where the space is today. There's spaces to avoid all these incidents. And yet, oh my word, that is not the best piece of driving that Zhou Guanyu has ever done. He's a rookie in Formula 1, but he certainly knows how the safety car procedure works. But there, he hit it, and he suffered the ultimate price of having to pit, and a black and white flag. So he's going to have to be careful now, or he'll start getting penalties in this race. Well, wow, we have a crazy 11 laps here then for the moment, and we've lost 4 competitors from this race already. In fact, yes, it is 4. We've lost Magnussen, Ricciardo, Leclerc and Hamilton. So that has massive implications for the championship. If Max Verstappen could just finish this race, he doesn't even have to win it, and he would increase his championship lead rather exponentially. And Charles Leclerc is losing his grip on this championship with mistakes either by him or his team. I think in that instance it has to be on him. Yes, he's focusing on Sergio Perez, but I think there's more than enough space to go around, and that's certainly the case for Zhou Guanyu as well. Probably Ricciardo not so much. I think it was a bit more boxed in, but I think he still could have avoided it. He's kind of turning into Magnussen there, and all sorts of carnage. We've got the safety car in this lap then, and wow, let's get our bearings here. So, after all that, here's the new race order as we go back under green flags in a moment. George Russell still leads from Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. That's not changed. Obviously, Hamilton is out of this race now. So Perez now moves up to 5th. That promotes both Alpines to 6th and 7th. Gasly to 8th. Tsunoda has gone up to 9th. Valtteri Bottas is 10th. And Mick Schumacher, once again, just outside the points. As we look to restart. Green flag. And George Russell is gone and off. And already him and Verstappen have got some gap over Carlos Sainz, as Aiden Jackson has a look at Carlos Sainz. Of course, he passed Zhou Guanyu in the 2020 feature race in the rain as well. But he's lost out to Sainz there. Maybe he made a slight mistake because Perez is right on his rear wing, Jackson's that is, as they look to battle going into turn 1. And of course, stallion defence by Aiden Jackson. You expect nothing less, and he stays in 4th. Zhou Guanyu is already... Zhou Guanyu has just passed Hulkenberg. He's having a bit of a torrid time out there in these conditions at the moment, because the Audi has been pretty even with the Alfa Romeo this season, but unfortunately looks like Zhou, who's on fresh tyres, don't forget, because he pitted for a front wing, so fresh tyres paying dividends for Zhou Guanyu up into 17th place, although I think there might be some talking over why he hit the safety car when there was plenty of space on the left to pass it. And he was given the green light because he was trying to pick up the race leader, which was George Russell at that point. And, well, blimey, what an absolutely crazy first 12 laps we've had of this race. absolute nuts. And, well, the front is as you were. Then with a few promotions from Perez, everyone up as well. We've lost 2 of the front runners, of course, so most of these drivers have gained 2 places. There's a McLaren of, I believe it's Lando Norris, going down the inside of one of them. I think it's Vettel. It is. Unfortunately, Norris can't make that one stick, strangely enough. But he'll probably have a better chance going into this corner, as Aiden Jackson is now battling with Carlos Sainz, and he's beating him there. Aiden Jackson is up to 3rd and now chasing for the race lead of this race, with Verstappen and Russell ahead. Once again, that supreme wet weather skill from Aiden Jackson on show. And here's how he passed him. We missed it completely because we were focused more at the back. And Lando Norris battling with Sebastian Vettel. And it's an absolutely wonderful move by Aiden Jackson, just about a car's width there. You probably could argue he kind of forced him off the track, but I think that's a fair cop on Aiden Jackson. He's up to 3rd. And I wonder if Russell and Verstappen are going into the pits now. They are. And I wonder if the track is actually drying out, because there's no spray coming from the field, and it might be dry. And it is. DRS enabled by race control. The track is dried out. The safety car period has brought the rain off the track. The rain had stopped by the time it had come out, and now all the cars going past for a couple more laps has Jackson's held up in the pits by cars going in. So now we are on the dry tyres then. Aiden Jackson goes to the mediums. I don't know if they'll make it to the end of the race. Obviously tyre wear isn't a huge issue here. Hulkenberg is going onto the soft tyres, so a different strategy call at Audi then. And I guess those on the soft tyres might be suffering a bit later in the race. Yep, the track is bone dry, so DRS has now been enabled by race control. And obviously the period under the safety car, when the rain had stopped, the rain has cleared up now. And now we are dry tyres for the rest of this race, unless it rains later on. But I think the rain front is moving away from the circuit, so we should have a dry rest of this race. Well, that's certainly a twist in the tail then. Obviously, some teams opting not to double stack, one of them being Red Bull. Obviously, Verstappen getting serviced first because he is the lead car. And that's the same for Esteban Ocon. Alexander Albon is in. Zhou Guanyu is obviously having to come in again, but I don't think he'll lose too much time because obviously the safety car kind of spared his blushes a little bit as he was able to catch up to the back of the pack despite hitting the safety car. That's extraordinary. Fernando Alonso here seems to be the big winner at the moment. What tyres is he on? Is Fernando Alonso on the dry tyres? Because if he is, he's in prime position for a podium here, because it's now the timing tower is now showing him as 3rd. Lando Norris is now 10th. He was, he started at the very back. He is now 10th, so it could be a point on for McLaren here. Valtteri Bottas is on for a couple of points for Alfa Romeo as they seem to have their stride back now. Alex Albon seems to be the big loser, but he's down in 15th with Zhou Guanyu chasing him. Zhou Guanyu is actually going ahead of Sebastian Vettel. And it was really unfortunate, really, because Zhou Guanyu definitely had the advantage on those new intermediate tyres, but the track dried out, and now we're on the dry tyres. Sergio Perez has gone to the softs, so he'll be probably pitting again. And there's Alonso. So, Fernando Alonso, definitely the big winner here. He's now up in 3rd, with Perez and Jackson behind him. That's extraordinary. Fernando Alonso definitely made the right call to be the first of the Alpines on the dry tyres. And he's certainly in a good position to keep a hold of that on the softs, but the question is, how long will the softs last? Jackson has moved to the mediums for Audi, so he's hoping to probably go to the end of the race on those tyres. Tyre wear is not really a huge issue here, so maybe even the softs will make it to the end. We'll have to wait and see. Lando Norris is definitely making good on the performance of the soft tyres, as is Valtteri Bottas, as he will pass Yuki Tsunoda for 9th place. I think he probably lost out to Tsunoda at some point then, because I think he was already 9th earlier. Lance Stroll has moved up to it, and Nicholas Latifi is now 12th, ahead of Mick Schumacher of all people, and that will not please Gunther Steiner. Down behind a Williams at the moment. Schumacher's definitely not had the best of weekends. He was involved in another incident, losing another front wing, because Mick Schumacher has been a bit of an unfortunate magnet for incidents this season. so far. And, well, despite the rumours of a swoop from Audi from Haas, should we say, by Audi, that's not happening now. Because Audi, of course, confirmed that no driver on this current grid will be considered for Hulkenberg's replacement. So we have to wait and see who it actually is. I think the sun is actually coming out now. And Sergio Perez is now on a charge, because he's about to pass Fernando Alonso for P3. It should be easy pickings for Sergio Perez. And the Red Bull usually is better than the Alpine in almost every metric. Unfortunately for Alonso, Aiden Jackson is now caught up to this now. And Jackson's had one of those quiet races for a change, but he's still doing the job. And Audi is Fernando Alonso gallantly holding off Sergio Perez. We know how good he is at holding his position. It was a big reason why Ocon won the Hungarian Grand Prix last season. Mick Schumacher battles with Pierre Gasly for 13th place. And, is that Pierre Gasly? Is that Mick Schumacher? I'm not sure who that was, but in any case, Schumacher's actually fallen behind Vettel now. So it looks like Schumacher's struggling, maybe with the problems somewhat. George Russell has cleared DRS of Max Verstappen, by the way. We haven't really focused on the front, but that's big for Mercedes then. George Russell has cleared DRS on Max Verstappen. That could be absolutely crucial come the end of this race. Could Mercedes finally break their barren streak and win a Grand Prix? It would be a double win for George Russell this weekend. The perfect comeback to a bit of a not disappointing season, but certainly a surprising season by Mercedes. Stellar high standards they have set over the last 8 years. 8-time Constructors Championships in a row. Unfortunately, they lost the drivers to Max Verstappen last season after that very controversial ending to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But they still aced it in the Constructors for an 8th consecutive time. Doesn't look like they're going to do that this year. That could be most likely going to Ferrari, because they will still lead Red Bull by the end of this race. Although it will be significantly reduced because Verstappen is running P2 and Perez is now running P3 ahead of Fernando Alonso. And let's see the gap here. I think Verstappen is actually closing in on George Russell. I think it's almost less than a second now. Needs to be less than a second in the DRS zone to activate it. Now, what's interesting here is Aiden Jackson. He's about to enter battle with Sergio Perez again. Those two have had their battles this season as well. It's almost like Jackson has been a magnet for Hamilton and Perez, and Sainz actually mostly as well. Credit Audi, they've been right towards the front, just not the very front. But although Jackson has won 2 races, Azerbaijan was definitely on merit though. And Silverstone, where it was on merit for Jackson, he did have a lot of people going into the pits. But he made the right call when everyone else made a monumental error, pitting after the safety car. We've already had a safety car in this race for multiple car incidents. We had Zhou Guanyu spinning, Hamilton and Leclerc having an collision, which took them both out of the race. Ricardo and Magnussen having their own collision, which took them out of the race. George Russell has now lost, or Max Verstappen has gained DRS on George Russell. So now we've got a battle for the lead going on, as they have raced away ahead of Sergio Perez, who's now 6 seconds behind this pair at the front. Aiden Jackson now, Max Verstappen now just needs to finish this race really, and he'll increase his lead over Charles Leclerc by another. It'll be 17 points at this rate per second, isn't it? Or 18 points? 18 points per second. We have no updates on the fastest lap at the moment. I think that is being held by Verstappen. Although everyone on the soft tyres isn't going bristlingly fast. The man who's really going well, unbelievably on the mediums, is Aiden Jackson. Up in 4th and sticking with Sergio Perez on the soft tyres. So Jackson is making those mediums work. But right now, I think, sadly, we are now going to see just how the performance is in the dry for the Red Bull. Now the rain has cleared. It's not such an even playing field anymore. And I think we're seeing now just really how much better that Red Bull is this season. It's for the lead. Max Verstappen has DRS. We'll head into turn 3. Or turn 2 rather. Round the outside. Russell forces him to go the long way round, but Verstappen will have DRS on the exit. Meanwhile, Jackson's having a look at Perez. And Verstappen has passed George Russell. They're still side by side. And Max will have DRS. He'll get him around the outside. He passed Sainz and Hamilton in the same corner here yesterday. But George Russell has the inside line. It'll turn to the outside for the next corner. And Perez is out of shape. Did Jackson take advantage of that? No, he did not. And there you go. Max Verstappen, the championship leader, the world champion, has taken the lead. And now I think we expect Max Verstappen to pretty much run away with this now. And is he coming into the pits? He is. And so is Russell. So those soft tyres have not lasted very long at all. Oh my goodness. George Russell was hit for oh my word. And the safety car is deployed. George Russell hit Verstappen in the pit lane. And Verstappen, due to a bit of a glitch in the game, went to a stratosphere and ended up back on the circuit. Oh my word. That is George Russell out of this race. Verstappen slowing for the pit limiter. Carlos Sainz is immediately in. That could be an absolutely wonderful call by Ferrari to bring Sainz in now, just as the safety car is deployed. The safety car is deployed because of an incident in the pit lane with George Russell and Max Verstappen. And Russell's out of this race. And Verstappen, due to a weird, I guess, glitch in the game somewhere, Max Verstappen went through the wall and then reappeared on the track. Bizarre circumstances in this race. Absolutely crazy. Was that a Williams with no front wing? There. I don't think so. It's probably just a camera shot. We have to see this again. Hopefully we get a replay soon. Here we go then. And this was bizarre. So this was the move Verstappen did on Russell. It went on for a few more corners. So Russell actually positions his car right in the middle. There'll be questions over whether that was more than one move by Russell, but I think it's fair enough. Fair call. So Verstappen now has DRS here, and by rights he should fly past Russell here, but he doesn't. He actually leaves the track there. Now I wonder if he gave the place back. Technically that wouldn't be giving the place back. I don't think there's been anything. It looked like Verstappen had slid through that corner. He's been struggling with the handling of his car all day. So now, we're on board with Russell now. And the soft tyres were put on probably less than 10 laps ago. So the soft tyres were definitely the wrong choice. So Aiden Jackson certainly made the right choice, going on the mediums. So what happens here? Verstappen just stops. And Russell doesn't notice it until it's late. Verstappen goes right through the barrier and then reappears on the circuit. We'll get a better understanding of what happened here. So, what did Verstappen do? Oh my word, he went into a stratosphere and appeared on the track again. So I don't think that was Verstappen brake checking or anything. I think what happened there, you saw the gearbox go from, I think it was 6th gear to about 1st. I wonder if he had a gear sync issue there for Verstappen. I don't think that was Verstappen's fault, but now he and Perez are in real trouble because if the soft tyres have not lasted that long, then they're going to have to double stack, and Aiden Jackson is going to lead this race on the mediums. So, obviously, Red Bull put Verstappen on the soft tyres for track position purposes, even though he didn't really have track position. And George Russell, unfortunately, is out of this race, so no points for Mercedes in this Grand Prix. From a strong base this weekend. And, well, Austria, where the really crazy happens. We're under the safety car again, because of an incident in the pit lane involving Verstappen and Russell, in which Verstappen, I think, just lost all gears, pretty much, stopped, and Russell didn't see it happening. It was too late to react because they were right next to each other on the circuit, or in the pit lane rather. So, we are heading back to green flag in a moment then. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez are 1-2 in this race, although that's academic because they're probably going to have to pit again. Safety car is in this lap. Aiden Jackson 3rd. Esteban Ocon is 4th. Lando Norris from the back of the field is 6th. He started last on the grid. A sensational race for Lando Norris. Carlos Sainz, Zhou Guanyu, who hit the safety car at the first safety car period, is now 8th. Bottas and Albon complete the top 10. We are green flag racing. And just how long will it be before Jackson passes 2 Red Bulls on aging soft tyres? That's the question now. Jackson is on the better tyre. He went to the mediums at the first stops after the track had dried during the first period, and already Jackson is feeling...
Guys, I think there's a problem with the gearbox. I think I've lost 4th. It's okay, Aiden, it's a software issue. We're on it, working around as best you can. We should be able to still make it to the end. Okay, copy.
Oh no, Aiden Jackson is having problems with his gearbox. He's apparently lost 4th. Oh no. Well, he'll take the lead of this race, but if he is losing a gear, if he's lost a gear, that's I don't think 4th is a vital gear in this track. But they are long straights. So Jackson, if he's lost 4th, is going to be a bit of a sitting zuck on the straights here, and this could be rather unfortunate. Carlos Sainz is now past Lando Norris. Hulkenberg is passing Mick Schumacher, I think. Now we've got more cars coming to the pits. We've got Red Bull with double stacking because of the incident with Verstappen. So this will ruin Perez's race. Not that that really matters, because it's Verstappen in the championship fight anyway. Norris has come in, and he's put on the mediums now. Who else is in? I think an Alpine. That's Ocon. He was 3rd. So now Carlos Sainz is 2nd. And now we've got almost 3 wide into turn 2 with Jackson with an alien gearbox. Fernando Alonso on the inside. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it stick. And Jackson valiantly defends. But I think it's going to be in vain. Yeah, he's definitely lost a gear there, Jackson. Audi are on it. It's a software thing. It's something Audi can fix. But it's, oh my goodness me, Aiden Jackson. So unlucky. He was leading this race. He probably would have been odds on to win. Listen to this, folks. With all that going on, Nico Hulkenberg is now 8th behind Alex Albon. Hulkenberg had started 20th, and now he's on for some points and on the medium tyres. Audi have played this absolutely wonderfully with both their drivers in the first stops when everyone made a critical error going to the softs. It's another race where pit strategy has won this race, most likely for Carlos Sainz, the big benefactor when he came in for the second time under the second safety car period. But Aiden Jackson has lost 4th in his gearbox, so he now has to hope that he can hold on to 2nd, because he won't catch Carlos Sainz with a missing gear. There's the TV, trying to go for some points here. It could be a double point finish for Williams, because Latifi is right on the verge of some points. He's fighting with Mick Schumacher, and it's all going on in this Grand Prix. What a crazy race. Lance Stroll is in 6th, by the way. Zhou Guanyu, after hitting the safety car in the first safety car period, is now 5th. Unbelievable. Oh my word. What a order we have here. Listen to this. Carlos Sainz leads from Aiden Jackson, who's lost 4th in his gearbox, being chased by Alonso. Bottas 4th. Zhou Guanyu 5th. Lance Stroll 6th for Aston Martin. Nico Hulkenberg has passed Alexander Albon for 7th and 8th. Pierre Gasly's 10th and Yuki Tsunoda's 9th. So there's double points for AlphaTauri. There's double points for Audi for the first time since Bahrain. There's double points for Alfa Romeo, who'd had a wretched season up to this point. And finally there's points for Lance Stroll. And Nicholas Latifi is not too far off maybe a possible double point finish for Williams. Oh my goodness. What a race. And that DRS for Aiden Jackson is hope, really. As Zhou Guanyu is all over the road. And he's lost 6th to Stroll and 6th to Hulkenberg possibly. Well, Hulkenberg is signing off with a points finish. Typical. Hulkenberg has 2 points finishes to end his stint this stint with Audi. He'll probably be most likely back next year if no other contracts come up. Now, where is Max Verstappen, you ask? He is 14th, and Perez is 17th and last, because we have 17 runners left in this race. Can Hulkenberg go for 6th, do you think? I'd love to say he could. And, oh wow, Nicolas Latifi is battling with his teammate Alex Albon. Max Verstappen's flying. Fastest lap, a 1 minute 8.7. Look at this. Alex Albon is battling with Nicolas Latifi. Now, this would be better if Williams called this off, because it could end up in a vital point. But unfortunately, Max Verstappen is flying for the field now. What tyres is he on? He's on the mediums. I really don't understand why Red Bull didn't fit the mediums to begin with, because it was certainly the right choice for Carlos Sainz and Aiden Jackson. And Jackson is going on older tyres than Sainz, and he's lost 4th. I think we're hearing that he's got 4th back, but yeah, gearbox problems for Aiden Jackson. His car's been bulletproof this year, unlike Hulkenberg's, who had 2 retirements back to back in Emilia-Romagna and Miami, and Verstappen is now already up to 12th. After all his weirdness in this race, Max Verstappen could still score a point or 2 here. And look, Fernando Alonso with DRS on Aiden Jackson. It's academic. Jackson, nothing he can do. He's lost. DRS to Sainz because he's a sitting duck on the straight with no 4th gear. Let's see if he can hold on to 3rd. He probably will, because Valtteri Bottas is about 3 seconds behind him. But right here, right now, Nico Hulkenberg could finish 5th here, lads. He's making sure, before he leaves, to replace Lara Carvalho, who is injured in the Grid World Series at Raven West. Hulkenberg is making sure he gets more points for Audi. Their first double point finish since Bahrain. No, since Silverstone, my apologies. Hulkenberg scored there as well, didn't he? My apologies for that. But he's making sure he gives Audi some points here, because they could be fighting Mercedes for 3rd in the constructors, and that would be a monumental achievement for a team that bought their release early. But look, Aiden Jackson's not giving up on 2nd place. We are hearing that his gearbox is nearing fixed, if not fixed already. But Jackson can't pass Fernando Alonso, so maybe there's another gremlin in that car. We haven't heard much from Jackson since the team radio. And his car, well, it's been bulletproof, Jackson, but today he's experiencing issues. I can't believe Zhou Guan Yu hit the safety car and is now 7th. That is remarkable. What a top 10 this is. Max Verstappen's already got up to 10th place, so he's now got a point. He's passed both Williams. That's 1 point he'll gain over Charles Leclerc. Could argue, but it should be so much more. They should have fitted the mediums on his car. And then he had a bit of a weird kind of glitch or something with the game, which put him back on the circuit, and he had to pit after the safety car. Jackson cannot get any straight line speed inside Alonso. There's something else in that car that's bothering Jackson, I think. But we know Aiden Jackson, we know he won't quit. He has no quit in the physique of Aiden Jackson. Now he goes around the outside. He's going to give us a battle at least, isn't he? And he gets the better exit. Wonderful swooping move by Jackson, but he'll get DRS down the second section of DRS, that is. No disrespect to Lance Stroll, but I really want to hit Hulkenberg to pass him with 3 laps to go. It'd be a wonderful achievement for Nico Hulkenberg. He's kept his head out of trouble, really. Starting at the back was a blessing in disguise, because 4 or 5 drivers went out in front of him, and there's been all sorts of other carnage. Nico Hulkenberg, the big benefactor of it all. Lance Stroll, one of those people who hasn't scored yet. I believe now, if this race was to finish how it is, with the Tsunoda getting some points as well, everyone in this season, bar Mick Schumacher and Nicolas Latifi, will have scored. And speaking of Mick Schumacher, he's fallen down the field again. He's now down into 6th. He was 11th at one point, and now he's going to fall behind Perez as well, because Perez is now flying. And that's Max Verstappen going down the inside of Pierre Gasly. He could get more yet, Max Verstappen, because that's Zhou Guanyu and Tsunoda fighting over 7th. Is Hulkenberg down the inside of Lance Stroll. Come on, Nico. Did he pull it off? Please tell me he did. I think he will. Please. Lance Stroll, you're going to score anyway. Just give Nico the position. We wanted to sign off with more points. But Stroll is going to fight it out. He's done it. Nico Hulkenberg, get in there. Wonderful move. Nico Hulkenberg is 6th. But Stroll has repassed him. Oh, Lance, please. Please don't do that. We're all cheering for Nico here. Because he's been the nearly man, Nico Hulkenberg, for the majority of his career. You could argue, should be in at least a McLaren or Ferrari by now. You already been there. Alonso and the signing of Alonso pretty much stopped him both times. Back in 2015, we all thought Nico was a shoo-in for the McLaren seat, and then Alonso took it. And then later on, I think it was even before then, wasn't it? Like 2013 or... no, it wasn't 2013. But when Alonso signed for Ferrari, we all thought Hulkenberg was going there. And, well, there you go. And Hulkenberg was already around Renault when didn't Alonso replace him with Alpine? I think he did. So Hulkenberg has been generally blocked by Alonso when it comes to moves. And sadly, he won't be getting the Aston Martin seat either, because that's where Alonso will be heading at the end of the year, at the beginning of next year. And he's certainly made good on it. This year, Alonso is certainly proving to Aston Martin why he should be considered, because he's going to get a podium finish. The first time since, I believe, 2013, I think. I think his last podium was in 2013. And of course, he scored in 2012, I think. So it could be 2012, 2013. It could be the first time he's on the podium, and it could be second yet, because he's repassed Jackson again. We're on the final lap. Carlos Sainz will win this race, and guess what? If Carlos Sainz does finish here and finish this race, and Max Verstappen's gone to 8th past Zhou Guanyu, but it looks like he'll still hold on for some points, Carlos Sainz will get ahead of Charles Leclerc in the championship standings and be a contender in this title battle with this race win. Well, he won at Monaco. Jackson's repassed Alonso. But here today, Carlos Sainz has avoided all the carnage and has put himself in this championship fight. There's still a long way to go, but he will get ahead of Charles Leclerc in the standings. Carlos Sainz will win this crazy Austrian Grand Prix. Fantastic win for Carlos Sainz. Who will come second? It looks like Jackson may just hold on with gremlins in his gearbox. A welcome return to the podium. Fernando Alonso in 3rd, his first since 2013, I believe. Nico Hulkenberg finishes 7th, or 6th. Max Verstappen finishes 7th. I wonder if Tsunoda had a penalty, because Max Verstappen is showing a 7th now. And this game is weird. Was there a penalty for Yuki Tsunoda, because Verstappen showing a 7th now? That's bizarre. There was a couple of changes there right at the end. So, after all that, Sainz wins from Jackson. Alonso 3rd, returning to the podium. Valtteri Bottas for Alfa Romeo 4th. Lance Stroll 5th, ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. That's unfortunate, but at least Nico gets some points. Verstappen probably could have even got more than 7th now. He was on fire in that last stint. Tsunoda's 8th. Pierre Gasly beats Zhou Guanyu to 9th. And Zhou Guanyu hit the safety car and still gets a point. That's remarkable. Oh, what an absolutely crazy race, folks. And the craziness is just starting, because now Nico Hulkenberg departs Audi, finishing P6. Who will be Jackson's teammate for the French Grand Prix? That's where the focus is now. Driver standings. I think Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, I think they're on equal points, you know. I think they're on the same amount of points. Oh no, there's 2 points separating. Sainz is on 172, so he's now 23 behind Verstappen, so he's less than a race win away. Leclerc is now a race win away. Jackson consolidates ahead of Hamilton. Hulkenberg moves up to 12th with that points finish because Kevin Magnussen was out of this race. Lance Stroll scores his first points of the season, and I'm pretty sure with Tsunoda scoring as well, there he is. Everyone has scored bar Mick Schumacher and Nicolas Latifi, and that is certainly the case. And Mick Schumacher has been the more unlucky of the two because he's finished ahead around P11 to P13 for some time. 67 points between Ferrari and Red Bull, and you have to say Ferrari could be in for the Constructors' Championship, especially with Sainz winning today's race. Absolute carnage, total carnage, to quote Martin Brundle. What a race. Carlos Sainz is a contender for this championship, but Max Verstappen will rue that mistake in the pit lane because it really probably should have been him winning today. Absolute carnage. What a race. But now attention turns to who Audi's new team member will be to partner Aiden Jackson. Hulkenberg signs off with some points. We'll see you for the French Grand Prix with a new Audi member when Formula 1 returns. Wow.